Hello everybody, welcome to another day of Cosmoteer. Today we're going to be doing an engineering day and I want to showcase something that has really been coming on as we went into a collaboration. And I did with Hosep Shine 325 and a bunch of other people as well in Discord. And what I basically did was I took this ship right here and I put it in Discord. I was like, oh, here, just use this ship as a laser ship that you can go around, fly around, and do multiple different things. Now, they took this ship, and he got inspired by it, and he took this ship, and he then built and made his very first version, which I believe was this one right here. Well, he shared this version with me. And he took this version, I was like, oh, this is a very neat ship. Now he took all the design aspects of all my other previous videos and all my engineering videos and put it into use. So you see this right here, layer stacking up armor, crisscrossing like bricks, as well as if somebody tries to shoot in here, they always try to shoot through the armor to try to reach the shield, as well as walkways and placement and how people can come in and out. And I was like, oh, this is a really neat ship. And then he went and he built it out and he made other versions of it as well. And so we shared. And so I collaborated back with him and I was like, okay, well, one of the biggest issues with this ship that I saw for myself is you see this tip right here? He has so much frontal armor that they almost never shoot down this path right here. So if you just watch this battle real quick, when they try to shoot each other, you notice, see this armor right here? This armor is heavily protected and they shoot all this armor just to reach the shield. Now the second to this as well is you see how the shield just extended? Because this shield right here, see how it only goes to this far? Because the armor is there. Once the armor disappears, the large shield then all of a sudden opens up. So you watch this, it destroys armor and then the shield covers and then it protects. And then you have these other shields protecting behind it to give it enough time to slowly recharge. While also the armor, you see once it could possibly get back up, depends how many disruptors they have on you. But it gives this whole extra layer of defense to it. So now these are just the first two versions. Like, oh, well, we can make this even better. So I went over here and I shared back with him and I came back some other versions where I rounded out the head and I made a bunch of other changes to it as well. And then he sent me some of his other versions as well. And so we went back and I collaborated and be like, well, you need to change this so that there's just enough armor around it at the head, so less catching ability, so that they will actually try to aim down this section right here. I also improved the walkways just a tiny bit over here and made these changes right there. But you can see right here the armor. They always try to shoot this large shield first, armor, and all of a sudden the shield extends, protects. And then if they don't do enough damage to it quick enough, the large shield will regenerate. And then now he's going to try to target this side and go for this side. So depending on how close or far away you are from the target, now it's aiming toward the large shields again. The AI tries to always target shields as best it can. The larger shield is one of the bigger threats. But one of the biggest things that I was trying to do here is I was reducing the armor up here on the tip, where if there's just enough distance, instead of shooting the lasers, and if the lasers are not enough threat, he'll try to shoot down here, down the middle. Now it doesn't always happen that way because I was still messing with the armor and we're going back and forth. But you see right here also, you see the lasers when they got destroyed here, they overshot in and cut off these lasers. So those were these versions. And I was like, oh, okay, let's try to modify this even more. Because that's a 44 crew, then we went to 52 crew, and we started expanding out more, and we started making tons more versions. Now over here, these are the different versions that I started to build out and change. But this was the final iteration or version that he sent me that I took, and I totally completely modified. Now I wanted to show you exactly how it actually changed, and then I started making tons and tons of more modifications and making more changes. I'm just going to go ahead and take the most latest version that I have, and you see I ended up with 50 crew, 351, and this is my test 2, and this was his final version that he sent to me that I had. And you see right here, you see this armor right here? This space right here, and also to reduce the weight is why I took all this away, space right here forces them to target down this alleyway right here. And forcing them to cut down this alleyway right here. Move the entire power plant one step forward, made these walkways this way like this, and this was the version that he gave me. Now the other thing with this version 2, which I want to showcase as well, is he made dedications to roles. Now dedications to roles work really great, but they don't work great for if you start losing shields, because you see how these guys are dedicated to shields? These power distributors, is what we call them, for the blue guys, should not have dedications. Instead, they should have dedicated roles. going to showcase this here on this other ship, that the one that I have completely changed. I rounded out the head, took away the armor, and there's just enough armor so that after they want to, they can sometimes target down the middle, which we want them to do to help tank down the damage. But you can see right here, added in the extra armor to that you have to hit all this armor, they hit all this armor before they even reach the shield. I changed the walkways, extended the walkways all the way to make it work better. I moved this one shield one tile up, and I need to really showcase why moving the shield one tile up makes a huge difference. Because if you leave the shields down here like this, you can sometimes, it doesn't happen all the time, you see how they overshot, cut off this walkway, and you see how they can't access the ship anymore? Where over here, if they shoot, and I know this ship's going to win because this one doesn't have any priorities. None of my blue guys have priorities. Instead, I manage all their roles by editing the role and telling them what the priorities are. So any of these power distributors have free reign to move around the ship. When you come back to this ship right here, these guys are just sitting in the bunker doing nothing because they only are dedicated to the shields. So they don't have free reign to go around the ship to help support lasers or other things. Also, you see how overshot, cut them off. This laser, or any used lasers right here, got overshot and cut off. Where this one right here, with the shield moved up like this, it doesn't get cut off, as well as adding fire extinguishers and everything else. Now, I spent many hours fixing up and messing with this ship to a point where it is now, and this was the final version that I did for collaborating, and then I just took it on and I started building out my own. And then here I started to even make more versions where I have my final version here, but then I started testing with two different versions, with one with armor and one without armor. This is my final iteration without armor, increasing its speed, reducing its cost, but allowing it to do something you wouldn't expect it to be able to do. You wouldn't be able to expect that this ship right here, and I know I'm not in the Cosmoteer Engineering where episode 31.1 or 31.2, where I showcase the ship, what exactly this ship can do, but this ship can take on a ballisteria. And you will be surprised at this new ship right here with less armor and how it's designed, and literally everything has been, and I've watched it for hours and hours, sprucing it up. You see right here, every piece of armor on here has a purpose, and they have to literally shoot through each piece of this armor before they reach the shield. Now, before they even reach the shield normally has a chance to fully regenerate, and it almost did, but it got taken out. And now he's going to start aiming at this shield right here, and they have to shoot through all this armor before they get it. And while they're shooting at this armor, you see all of the lasers are firing back and doing devastating damage to the other ship. And again, this ship right here can take on a ballisteria, and it's under 500,000. This ship's only less than 350,000, and it's easily destroying it. It's already wiped out almost all of its lasers, and you see it's still tanking and still not able. You have a shield right here protecting this way, which layered. You have a shield right here protecting this way, and you have a large shield protecting this way. And the large shield, you see this right here, it doesn't cover all the way till they destroy this armor. Once this armor is destroyed, the laser then reaches all the way over and covers a much larger portion, letting the large shield have more than one chance to actually go with just one shield, less crew. And you see over here, they didn't overshoot, and they didn't overshoot the laser that's down here. And so even if they destroy this section, you see how they still have full walkways, full ability to quickly go, power all the lasers, and go. Now this other ship has no lasers on it, and eventually it will get destroyed, but I'm just going to take it out and move to the next ship. Now I also spent many hours before in the episodes, and they haven't come yet, revamping these, because you see there's different versions of them. Now this was the laser ship that I just showcased in the most previous engineering one. I did completely redo the head, did completely redo the back armor, as well as a whole bunch of other things on it. So if you actually look at it, it actually has a design on the front and a design in the back. So it looks kind of like a dragon head with a dragon tail. I like how I designed it, and it doesn't reduce any of the armor. But this ship right here does massive amounts of damage. And so does this ship. And remember how I was saying don't overshoot? They didn't overshoot the walkways, and they can still keep going and going and going, because there's just the right amount of armor ratio to whatever type of damage is being done to it to be able to take it on. Now sometimes they still do overshoot. Sometimes they still do overshoot and cut them off. But as long as they don't cut them off, see, watch this little laser. Now the other version, see how it stops right there? If they don't shoot all the way in and take out this walkway, I still can do full damage back here. And now they're trying to target the lasers. I have the armor right here, and you see how they sometimes shoot the middle, but it's because of damage to ratio, distance to ratio. Sometimes you kind of do not want this much armor, you want a little bit less, but it depends on what type of ship you're fighting. Before to tank this much, normally this ship right here does completely win, even against this ship. It just depends on if they shoot out the lasers, and you know how you shoot down the middle end, because this one's no longer seen as a threat. Best case scenario is if you can keep all 3 lasers on both sides, so 6 lasers, and be able to fight back and forth with it. Now, for it to even have stood a chance, now look at this, 571,076 crew to 345,000 with 50 crew. So we literally are trying to take full utilization. Now, this is not my main tanky version of this. This is my most speed version, even reduced armor in the back, reduce the armor in the front, to be able to move and fly around the map quickly, as well as giving it storage so that it actually has ability to play in career mode and carry storage for other ships. Now, as long as they don't actually take out all my lasers, and it stands a really good chance of doing it in this particular battle, this ship can win even against my other laser ship, which again costs a whole lot more. And this is the one with all the weaving actual walkways, all the extra shields, having the extra point defenses. Now, the one thing that this ship is lacking is point defenses, but I have no more ability for command points to add point defenses for this. So it's mainly just made for building masses among them, or even just having the same one. And you see right here, it blew this ship apart for lower cost, all because we're utilizing armor to shields and utilizing the exact spacing of everything and making sure that everything is placed just in the right spot so that everybody's doing what they need to do and the roles are actually assigned very, very, very well. Now, I know projectile weapons can obviously blow away and destroy laser type of shields or laser type of ships, but I wanted to showcase this. Now, remember, this is my main ship and it can do a lot and it can beat a lot of ships. Watch this, 585,096 crew, 345,000 to 50 through. Which one do you think will win? If you watch this very closely, and if you've seen, and this is another one too, which I haven't even gotten to that episode yet, but I was just so excited about this ship, I had to showcase it now. I changed all these walkways and improved it significantly, even added walkways back here, changed the direction of the walkways to just even improve it more, so that 3.4 could literally beat its first version 100% of the time. But if you're watching right here and you stand, remember how the shield, they didn't overshoot because I don't have the shield back there. The shield's purposely pushed up one tile forward and a little bit less armor for that purpose, so that they do not overshoot when being shot with laser to laser. And you can see already I've lost this, and I lost those right there. Once I lose the disruptors on there compared to these two ships, this ship will very likely win. And this ship doesn't win all the time versus the other ship. But the pure fact that this ship stands a chance against the other ship, and also that ship, it would have lost in the long run. If you lose the disruptors on this one, it loses the battle in this one. But if all disruptors, as long as you have some disruptors, but as long as you don't lose any disruptors on this ship, 50-50, or I would say 40-50% chance that this ship that costs so much less, and it really depends if they target here. See how now they're targeting right here? Now it's tanking from the front. And if they're tanking the front, all these weapons are doing all this damage while he's trying to shoot here. There's just a tiny bit amount of armor there for the armor to damage ratio for the target there. Now, it is bad if he doesn't able to tank enough and they don't destroy enough of the lasers, which I can see we're not doing here, and we can still lose. But the damage done is significant. And yes, again, not always going to win because we're looking at a 345,000 ship, 50 crew, to a 585,000, 196 crew. It's literally almost double crew and everything. And you would expect that this ship should win 100% of the time, all the time. That's not the case for these two ships when fighting each other. And it really depends on if they get lucky and how it is. Now, I changed the armor on this one. Less armor number version 4. I changed this to be able to fight a ballisteria. Because, believe it or not, this ship that has 350,000 and 50 crew can also, very rarely, not all the time, take on and fight a ballisteria. 101, toe-to-toe, and tank it. Doesn't do it all the time because the less armor version doesn't have enough armor to tank all the cannon shots. Deck cannon shots normally tend to shoot through and blast through completely. But those are the different things that happen for these particular ships, and I can see that this ship is actually losing more often because it's probably version 4 and I need to change it back to a different version. But I was playing around with the armor a ton. That's why I have so many different versions and how the placement of the armor is. And for it to have even take on all these different ships, it can even take on this ship too. Sometimes, not all the time. And this ship right here does devastating amounts of damage because of all the lasers on it. It literally has 2 ion beams. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heavy lasers on each side with 2 disruptors. The amount of damage that it can do is even more than this ship can do. But for this ship right here, to even stand even a semi-chance against this other ship, it's pretty impressive. Depending if it gets lucky. The AI does some strange things sometimes. You see how the shield extended out, blocks a couple more damage, and then you have this armor. Now the armor is now protecting the shield. The shield is now re-popped back up, tanked a little bit more damage, and then it didn't get to go up a 3rd time. But for it to be able to tank twice or 3 times, sometimes, pretty impressive. Now look at the damage it did to this ship. It's almost through. And in fact, if it doesn't do enough damage to the weapons, it's gone. Right? And if you mass and spam these ships right here, it's very impressive what can be done. Now I went over here and I want to do showcase just the name, the creator, the original. He took my template and then he revised it, and then I took his template and revised it. The original design was by Hosep Shine 325, and it's all because we originally started collaborating, shared a ship, and then he started sharing a ship back in Discord, and I was like, oh, let's see if I can make it even better. His in-game name is Shell, and it's modified by myself to make this ship to be the way that it is. Very impressive. It goes around 80 ms, whatever 80 ms is, meters a second. And it's very impressive. Now I want to showcase even more impressiveness. If you come over here and you take several of these ships, I'm going to take the lesser version. And if you were to take 4 of these ships, and then if you were to come over and you would say, okay, can you take on an Imperium ship? And can you take on an Archimedes? 3, 6, 9. I need to equal the same cost. 200 crew. 200, 250, 300. There. 300 crew worth of crew. 369, 369. So almost the exact same, well, around the same cost of credits, less crew. And you can see what this will do. And I'm pretty sure even less amount of ships can take on this ship. Pretty sure I did it with 4 or 5. If you're taking just 4 of these guys and fighting an Archimedes and beating it with just 4 of them, and how many ships will I lose? I'll lose 1 ship there, and I think that's all I'm gonna lose. And then if you take it down and take it down even further, I don't think 4 can win all the time, but it can sometimes. You take 4 of these ships. Total cost is $1,400,000, $1,400,000-ish. I can't do math fully, but just 200 crew, right? And you're using no ammo, no anything, and you're fighting against an Archimedes. And if you flank and if you control them, obviously these 2 ships are grouped together, so they died with each other. But if you flanked at the right positions and got into them, which is very easy to do with this tiny light ship, you can come over here and you can literally do devastating damage and just rip right through them and destroy them. Now I'm going just to the bare minimum cost for each one, and these ones are not heavily protected from nukes because they're not heavily armored, because I don't have that version there, but I have other versions which I've been playing around with that have so much. Like if I want to do armor version, I could do armor version 2. It flies a lot slower, but with just the extra armor added to it, it can tank so much more, because literally all of this is armor that cannons, nukes, or other things have to go through, as well as the shields, which gives it just so much more ability to dodge, play against, and everything. But the pure fact that this little ship that costs so much less, and I want to showcase this, 350, right? No other ship that I know of that's not a projectile. I don't have any cannons, I don't have any missiles, I don't have any projectile weapons at all, pure energy. and lower cost than a Ballisteria with less crew can take on sometimes, not all the time, a Ballisteria that is really, really, really impressive. And you see right here, he's just tanking the damage. I've already lost a set of ship, but it's very likely I'm going to lose in full. If you lose your weapons and lose the ability to you would take on your weapons, it won't happen. It has to be able to tank the damage here. And again, it's not all the time, but it's pretty impressive that it does do it sometimes. That this little ship right here, with how the armor's placed and everything, can sometimes take on and destroy a Ballisteria. Watching over here, we'll watch this ship. I don't think it's gonna win. Now that I'm trying to record it, it won't happen as much as I want it to do. But it can sometimes do it. Also, because I reduced the crew too, 50 crew max. Normally, if you actually take a different ship, one of the older ships that has 52 crew, it can take on a Ballisteria and take it on. Now, I know I've really showcased that ship a ton. I'm going to come over here and let's go over here and look at one of the newer other ships that were given to me too as well. This ship right here is just a full-on double-deck ramming ship. Actually, I've never faced it against a Ballisteria, so I have no idea what it will do. But this little ramming ship, very fast, comes up, rams the other ship, and just tanks damage from here. Or tries the best that it can. Which, if you've noticed, ramming ships can be very annoying if you're playing against other ships. If I were to even take, like for example, my 2 cannon versus their 2 cannon, even though the cost is significantly less, under 300,000, 44 crew. But this ramming ship right here, because right here it's trying to ram into this little corner right here, if it rams properly and doesn't stick right there, it can actually come up here, and if you were to control it yourself and you rammed right in this corner right here, you could technically take out my ship. So, really neat, super nice design. I love the designs and the collaboration that's going on as we all collaborate in Discord, share different type of ships, and help optimize them to make them better. Now, if you don't want to join us on Discord, or you're not interested in sharing or anything like that, that's still okay. You can watch some of these videos, or you can send me an email of images if you don't want to share with anybody else and just want it to be private. Those are the type of things that you are more than welcome to come and do. There are a bunch of other ships as oh, I didn't even showcase this ship right here. This is another ship that I was playing around with, which is basically a little tiny drone ship that flies over 100 meters per second, but it does also very amazing damage. Now it's at its total cost, and it can take on a lot of most of these ships, like I can't even remember exactly which one. I don't even remember if it can take on this ship. I'm not 100% sure. I think sometimes it actually has a problem. Before the small little ship, already utilizing the max amount of command points. This little ship, if you make a whole bunch of these little 24 crew ones, you see it's just tanking armor, tanking armor. There is no shields for this one, but it's meant to just be a fast, super fast ship that can come in and beat other ships. Or if you build in massive. The main reason why it has that curved head, or not curved head, but more of a, not like a pointy type of head, because I have older versions of it. So if I come over here and I look at my older versions, I have a bunch of older versions of the exact same ship. The problem if I were to try to misbuild, that's the same ship, or it looks like the same ship. We'll just go back to the original first one that I was doing this. This right here, you see how there's this empty space right here and these little prongs that point out? If you build out like a whole bunch of these ships and you're flying them around and trying to mass destroy another ship, they tend to catch on each other. And then if they catch on each other, they just get destroyed. So I changed up the head completely so that there's almost no catching ability on the front head and on the sides. You see how there's pointing on the sides? Doesn't look as fancy, doesn't look as nice, But what makes a difference and what really improves stability is if you come over and take a whole bunch of these little tiny ships, these drone ships. Like if I were to take 4 of those ships and you were to come over here and you were to fight one of my cannon ships, you'd be impressed how these 4 little tiny ships, which only cost 2, 4, 6, well, it's more crew. You can do 3 of them, and 3 of them normally can stand a pretty good chance against it. When you're swarming other ships, and you see right here, they still catch, and if they catch, it's just devastating. It basically means you have 2 guys out of the game because they're not even flying to each other. So the catching problem is probably the only problem that I have with these ships, is when they catch on each other. But they can do a ton of damage for little cost. And that's what I was thinking of. How to make tiny little ships, least amount of crew, do the most amount of damage without using any ammo, no sulfur, no missiles. And can easily, the only thing that needs to be replaced is the crew if you lose them. And be able to quickly get into battle and support and do what needs to be done. And that's what these little tiny ships are for. And you see, I actually, in the game, if you were playing regular game, you wouldn't have lost any ships. You could repair each one of these. And I guarantee that with how it is right now, these ships will win. Or should. Depending if this other ship gets in the way. But it should. It's got 1 cannon left. It has no armor, to say the least. And it just needs to get in and destroy it. Let's speed the game up and just showcase that it should win. That's that one destroying that one. Now, if you were to come over here and take even a bigger ship, let's say for example, let's take our original 6 cannon ship. Just the design is a little bit different. And we'll come over here and we just add in at least 1 more. 5 of these little ships. I don't even know if they stand a chance because these deck cannons, they do a ridiculous amount of damage. It takes 2 volleys to kill one of these guys. But if they get onto them, now I improved the back armor significantly on these ships. Not only is it aesthetically for design, the head as well as the tail, the armor, and I watched countless amount of hours exactly how ships come behind and where they do the damage to improve it, and then to improve it by design. So you have a tail and you actually have the front with the head, and that's how that's designed. Now my 6 cannon ship still does do tremendous amounts of damage. It's designed to do a very powerful alpha strike, but now it also has an aesthetic look to it as well that I really like and I really enjoy, without depreciating any of the armor value in any way, but just giving it a head with the actual eyes. You have your ears, you have your mouth, everything's on the actual head itself. And so it's in the armor itself is the design. I think that's all I really want to showcase for now. There's a bunch of other things that were going on. There's a whole bunch more ships in the Tilney Sharp shipyard, TLNY shipyard. So these are the things that we're showcasing. I know that he built a brand new one as well. I think it was this one right here, which we're going to go through, and we do a shared video collaboration where we're looking at the ship in full. He added rail guns to it, to the deck cannons, added more armor, and changed it up a little bit, placed the armor around a little bit so that it can do exactly what it does, and showed a whole bunch of other tips as well. So really nice. For example, the ammo and the sulfur being next to each other. That's something that some people, even I didn't know about, you could do. For example, if you were to take this right here and you take the factory, I just want to showcase this because it's really neat. Personally, is what I think. And you take these right here, and if you were to put this here, and if you were to put this here as an example, and if you look at them, you have ammo on the top, but you have ammo on the bottom. And here he has ammo on the top, ammo on the top, sulfur on the bottom, sulfur on the bottom. Now to change that, you pick up a piece like this, and you see this one right here, vertically flip. You vertically flip it to be the same. So you see right here, both the ammo's on the bottom, and the sulfur's on it. So if you vertically flip this one, Now the animals on the top from over here vertically flip this one, and the animals on the top. And that's how you change it so the animals both on the top, the sulfur's both on the bottom. You can vertically flip pieces or objects to be so that the animal and sulfur's on the top. Now to some people it may not seem like a big deal, but it is when you have one more square that you have to walk out to either grab sulfur or grab ammo and resupply it back in. So vertically flipping factories or other things that you need to flip, pretty impressive and pretty neat. So just wanted to showcase that little point right there. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching my content. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to smash the like button, leave me a comment, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. If you haven't already subscribed, feel free to subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, that's okay as well. Come back once a week, once a month. Check out what content I have. Thank you all again for being here, and you all have a wonderful rest of your day.